Hello, hello, hello. Come on in, guys. Hey, guys, remember your camera does have to be on. Sherry did make you turn your camera on last week, didn't she? Yes?
Normally I have my camera on, but I
Yeah,
wasn't here.
but
I
did Sherry make
wasn't
you turn
here.
your camera on?
Hey,
Yes, I wasn't there.
I can't hear.
You can't, can you hear me? So Sherry does it every other Sunday, so I can get some time off. I work like 7 days, like 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. And Sherry has agreed to do it for me. And when she first started doing it, I know she didn't make people turn their cameras on. So, and I don't watch them anymore. One of my other staff members, I have someone who does it, but every interaction with any of us, your camera has to be on. We want you to think we remind you, you're the most important thing. And if you don't make yourself a priority, then you won't pass the test. It's really a matter of just understanding the content and how we answer test questions. So I'm Dr. Pam. If you haven't met me, I think I know everybody. I'm Dr. Pam. I'm doing families tonight, but I always open it up with any question you've seen anywhere, anything you want to ask me about that I can go over with you. Minette, have I met you? Do we know each other? Are you tutoring with Sherry or
No, ma'am,
Teresa?
this is my first time.
Well, hello. How are you?
I'm okay. And you?
LM or LC?
L LM.
And are you a repeat offender?
Yeah.
If you watch my videos, you know that means you've taken it more than once. And you offend me by taking it more than once. When is the last time you took it?
I took it I think it was December, I think it was. Maybe
Okay, and how close
December.
did you come?
It was like within 10
Okay,
points.
okay. Did you have to wait another 90 days? Did you take it again in 30 days?
Hmm. Yeah, it's been the time is claimed already.
Okay, so, but
So
in most states, if you only miss by less than 10, you don't have to wait 90
well,
days.
no, I didn't have to, but I did.
Why?
I haven't yeah.
If you're that close, don't wait.
Well, I wasn't
Don't
ready.
wait. If you were that close, you were just scared.
Okay.
So we don't have to be scared. If you're that close, always take it immediately so we can kind of get through it and figure out what's going on and get you there. Any questions in general, guys, really? Okay, I'm gonna just do really some content on families and how we treat families and what it may look like in a question. We'll do content and then we will talk about and see what it looks like in test questions. Okay. One of the things to remember is when it comes to families, we really believe we don't believe in an IP, identified patient, that this one person is the problem. And I know a lot of agencies run that way, that if you just fix this one kid, then everything would be great. Unfortunately, that's just not true. It's the whole family that's got the issue. Share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to start off the way back in the very beginning. Uh, who's this by? Do we remember? This is Bronfim Bremer. Am I sharing my screen? Okay, so this is Bronfim Bremer. He taught us about the ecological system, your eco map, right? How everything is interrelated. So my chromosome system, right? That's way out there. That's the chromosome. That's like the whole wide world. Your macro, your exo, your meso, which is your MEZ or MES, and then your micro. The chromosome system, we think about being way out there. One second. Okay, so in our chromosome system, think about when COVID first started. It was those nasty Chinese people over there, and it wasn't going to ever bother us, was it? Come on, they were eating bats and they were nasty. They just nasty people, and we didn't have to worry about it. That's what your president said at the time. So, but that was really what was happening. What we found out, like every other system, everything affects everything. Okay. So when it finally did hit America, that hit our macro system, our worldwide, our national system, our macro system, social norms changed. Now we're talking before we had the shot. What were the social norms? What things changed about how we interacted with each other when COVID hit?
6 feet apart,
Got it?
wearing a
What
mask.
else? Okay. We had to that first Thanksgiving. Remember, he said, "Stay away from your family." So you shouldn't have Thanksgiving and Christmas with your peoples. But that was Trump that time, right? That's what he said. Okay. So the goal is that when we first did that, we really thought that in the chronozone system, it would never get to us. Is there anybody here that hasn't been affected personally by COVID? Everybody has, right? But when it was here, we really never thought it would affect us. We could see it going through all parts of the world, but somehow we believed we lived in a world where we wouldn't be affected. But what is that? Well, that's the whole goal of Bronfman Brimmer. What he says is everything affects everything. I remind people to turn their camera on. Yeah. Got to keep your camera on. If not, I will ask you to leave and you can watch it later. I don't mind at all, but the camera has to stay on. But it's recorded, so if you can't have it on, it's okay. Okay, so then my exosystem, that is going to be my local government. My meso and my micro may differ. Tell me more. The meso and the micro, how mine may be different than yours. What does that mean? My micro is my tiny, tiny little part that makes up my family, my circle. My meso could be my church, but for you, it might be part of your micro. So it doesn't matter if it's MEZ or MES, it's meso micro. A child's microsystem has to include mom and dad, right? Can a child live by themselves? So a child's system is going to be different. But when it comes to every individual person, your meso and your micro are different. So if my church is if I consider that my immediate resource, then that's in my micro. But for you, it might be in your meso system. I start there just because we're going to talk about then the eco map, and that's how we map it out. And in family theories, there's lots of tools that we use, and the eco map is just one of them. Hello, Mastermind.
Hey Doc, how you feeling?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for asking.
I do owe you an apology for not responding to you.
Okay, it's cool.
No, I do owe you an apology, and we can chat later if you'd like.
Okay.
Okay, so then what we know then is the eco map, which doesn't belong to anybody, is how we start mapping out families and what they look like. An eco map is really just the tool that we use to look at the ecological system, the things that are coming in and out of families. Like with any other map or any other tool we use, our eco map looks at the straighter the lines, the better the relationship. You can do an eco map on a person, but since we're doing family therapy, we're looking at the whole family. Okay, so we see that Adam is the dad and Louise is the mom. And we see that the family right there, that's the circle, that's their family. We see that mom and dad are at the top. right? Adam and Louise, mom and dad. Mom and dad are always at the top. There's no system ever that allows kids to be in charge of a household. So we see that Michelle and Greg are the children. And in this family, what we're looking at are the resources, the energy that's coming in and leaving the family. What we know is that everything affects everything else. That's whole systems theory. If you gave me a plant and I put it in my closet and I never watered it and I never gave it any sun, would it live? Not very long, right? So we'll talk about that. So the goal is with a family, there have to be resources going in, and the family then gives to the next resource. So we see that dad on dad's side, dad is a work foreman. He loves his recreational buddies, hunting, fishing, drinking, poker. We see that, oh, look, the arrow goes both ways. That means he gives to that system, and that system also gives to him. We see his recreational buddies, right? He gives to that system gives into his family system. How does mom feel about his buddies?
It says stressful. Not very good.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so we see that. So okay, so we see that is causing mom stress. So this outside system is causing this part of the system stress. We see that mom goes to church, right? There's an arrow. Well, church gives to mom. There's not an arrow on both sides, is there? No, so church just gives to mom. Mom doesn't necessarily give to church. This goes one way. Why do you think the church stresses out Adam?
Maybe he don't go.
Because he's out there drinking and fishing and hunting on Sundays, right? Pastor up in the house talking about it. So we see that does cause a stress for him. So in a family, right, we hope that there's much more good things coming in than bad things. And we hope that a healthy family, again, they can give to these resources, right? So this gives to dad. This gives to dad. So when he has to go to work, he does a really good job at work. What we know also then, if we break this down even further, is this is what the inside of the system should look like. So mom and dad are at the top, right? Mom and dad are two separate people, but they're also part of the parental subsystem. We see below, my children aren't below. We see the son and the daughter, they're below. They're separate people, but they're still in the sibling subsystem. So we're looking at these systems. Hello, Miss Danita.
Hey, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
I think most of the time I've seen you, you've been in your car.
Yeah, I feel like I
Is that
live
your
here.
office?
It is.
So anyway, we see that the lines around the mom and the dad and the lines around the parental group, we see those are called what? They're not fully closed and not fully open. What's that term? Semi-permeable. That means some things get through, but not everything. So there are boundaries against mom and dad. They have their own personal boundaries, and they have the boundaries they have as adults, as the parents, and the kids. So the kids, right? So I'm the son, and I've still got my own personal boundaries. I've got the daughter. I've got my personal boundaries, and then there are going to be the rules that adhere to me being in the subsystem, in the child subsystem. But what we know is we see that input from the environment, that arrow, the things that were coming into the environment are all those wonderful things that we saw. Dad's job, the church, the friends, her college, all of those things that were helping this family grow, that is input from the other systems to help this system grow. So that as that energy comes in, then it comes throughput. What that means is this throughput energy helps the family run. that dad can, I'm going to be very stereotypical. Dad can go out and mow the grass and he can do all the manly things, and mama can cook the dinner and kids can do homework, and this family can really run. We know that input from the environment equals throughput in this healthy system, and then they can put out to the next system. So when dad goes out his fishing and hunting, but his hunting buddies, that he has energy for that, that he's coming from this great environment, kids can go to school, all those things are happening. Now, in this situation, if we work with families like that, it'd be great, wouldn't it? We wouldn't have jobs, no, would we? Because we do not see families that are this healthy. Let's face facts, we just don't. So if we took this family and we saw that dad is hanging around with his drinking and hunting buddies, and let's assume now that dad's problem has gotten worse. Dad has become an alcoholic. Okay? It's gotten so bad that dad has lost his job. Now dad loses his job. Mom's a typical enabler, right? So she continues to do that, and she now is not taking care of the kids. The kids are going to school dirty and complaining about, people complain that they smell and they don't have their friends stop coming over. What's going to happen to the system? Anybody work with or grow in a family of alcoholics, or parents are alcohol or drug users? Do you let people in your house after a while?
No. So it's
Right?
the die?
It closes. The system's going to close. That's exactly what's going to happen. So
Mm.
that term is entropy, of course. So entropy, Entropy. So entropy really is the dying of the system. Think of the word atrophy. So if your fingers and toes and your legs, if they don't get enough oxygen to them, they will simply die. The same thing with this family. So if that's dad becomes an alcoholic, he continues to drink. Mom continues to enable him. I'll check on that. Mom continues to enable him. School social worker is now calling because everybody's saying the kids, they're not coming to school. When they get there, they're misbehaving. So now school social worker is calling. Mom's going to let her in, right? She's going in. Probably not. Then we're going to end up with defects being called. Children and Family Services is going to be called. And then eventually, if the family doesn't receive any assistance, the family will just be gone. The kids would go into foster care. Mom and dad would probably end up broken up, and dad, if he keeps drinking, will probably end up dead soon. Families we see. Okay, so this is what it looks like. The goal is the soonest they let us put services in, or the soonest we can put services in, it will stop the dying process. We're going to negate the entropy. Okay, those are usually test terms. So if the family is dying, it's said to entropy, to die. If we can put services in, we can reopen the system. We're then going to stop the dying process. We're going to negate the dying. Okay. So that's what we're looking for. We've seen that term before. It's usually pretty common on the test. Never seen that word before in my life, Dr. Pam. Just made it up. I swear I didn't. It's usually a test term. Okay. So it really means to really make sure that we really help the house. So simple ways to think about it: cleaning up the messy room, restructuring and balance, structure and balance. We are trying to save the family. A closed system will die. So that's what happens if they stop at letting people in. This it'll eventually just go away. So if we're able to put services in, we stop it. A couple of other terms that just belong to family systems in general. You might see the term cybernetics. You ever seen that word?
I have.
I swear when I first saw it, I thought it was like some like computer term, and why is it in my social work book? Cybernetics is simply how systems, it's the study of family systems. That's terminology that, again, APGAR book is really good about that, but a lot of people stay away from the APGAR book, and sometimes you just don't see those terms if you're just doing test questions. So we've got to really learn the test questions. Okay, so again, this is systems theory. Everything is related. A closed system will eventually die. An open system, we don't want our boundaries open to everybody, but we want semi-permeable boundaries. Some things can get in and some things cannot. So this is great and all, but what happens is this whole school of theory broke into two separate schools: structural and strategic. Structure talks about families that need boundaries and rules. They are toe up from the flow up. That's a clinical definition. Just DSM, it says toe up from the flow. So it really means I have no boundaries, no hierarchy, and no rules. Okay. So those of you that are taking notes, remember it's recorded. Just pay attention and love the fun you're in right now. You'll get this, I swear. I don't keep anything from you. Okay. So structural family therapy is Minuchin. Minuchin started off teaching us, he really believed that they were just poor families when he started. He is from Argentina. Yeah, from Argentina. And he started his work with families, and he really thought that it was only poor families that had poor structure. As he continued to study, he realized that all families everywhere, poor and rich, just don't have boundaries, don't have rules. Oh, I know you've worked with some kids. Tell me a family that you've seen that you came from that didn't have any rules, any boundaries. Almost everything was fine. Y'all work with families. You are social workers, yes. Okay, don't act like you ain't never seen bad, unhealthy families. Manette, what do you do?
I work at a forensic hospital.
Did we meet this week? We didn't
Uh,
meet this week. Wait, I was gonna say
no,
somebody told me that same story this week. I heard it.
We work together.
I'm like, I am not crazy. I know I'm not crazy. Because I think that's the coolest job ever. And I'm thinking I've got met two people at the same time that have the coolest job ever. Very cool. Okay. So your patients, they came from healthy families? Not
no,
at
ma'am.
all. Not at
No.
all. Not at all. So many times, and I will tell you, even just being a Girl Scout, one of the things that I really remember, and these are like, I'm the Girl Scout leader. These are my kids' friends, not my clients, my kids' friends. So I take up my Girl Scout troop to go bike riding. I live in Tennessee. It's beautiful outside. We have lots of parks. That's what people do. They're about 7 or 8, and we go bike riding, and the little girl can't ride a bike. That's
Mhm.
unusual here. That's really, really unusual. Kids ride bikes. That's just what kids do here. Blonde hair, blue eyed little girl can't ride a bike. Like,
Mm.
wow, okay. I can teach her, no big deal, no big deal. But as we are spending the day in the park, and I have like 6 Girl Scouts, and we're picnicking, and I'm curious, why can't she ride a bike? And her father works out of town, and mom was a nurse. Mom gets off from work at like 4 and disappears.
Mm.
Not sure if there was a boy or a girl she was seeing, and not that it mattered. But she was 8, her older brother was 11, and they were home by themselves all the time. And mom said she was just down the street. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not the therapist. I'm the social worker. I'm the Girl Scout leader. But really, no boundaries, no rules, no hierarchy. We would see them in the morning going to school, and they would stop at the local gas station and get breakfast every day for school. Nobody cooked, nobody fed them, nobody was there. Dad came
Right.
back in town on weekends, and dad was more stable, but that meant
Right.
dinner was usually pizza. No rules, no boundaries. One summer, uh, they were playing in the backyard, and I think like a mirror had broken, like a bedroom mirror had broken, and it was in the backyard, and she was playing with it and almost sliced her finger off. There's nobody there. There's nobody at home. So that's what it looks like. No rules, no boundaries, whatever goes.
Right.
My daughter thought it would be fun to stay with her one weekend. And dad was in town that weekend. I did let her stay. And what happened was my daughter came back and she was so sick. She thought it was so cool because they didn't have to eat vegetables. They didn't have to eat dinner. They could just do whatever they wanted to do. And she thought that was the coolest thing to do. She was so sick the next day because she had pizza and donuts and whatever she wanted. That's a mild form of families that need structure. We work with some pretty messed up families, haven't we? We see people, people that really just mom doesn't know how to parent, doesn't know that she's supposed to parent. So those are the families that need structure. Strategic, we'll talk about in a minute, is how we talk to each other. But structure, there are no boundaries, no rules. A couple of terms that you'll see when it comes to Minuchin are those rules about who participates and how close people are. So we know that boundaries can be diffuse or rigid. Like the diffuser. So when you plug in and it puts a puff of smoke, a puff of freshness in your air, right? When you see that, do you see when you smell it? Do you see the smoke? Do you see it going anywhere? Diffuse means I can't see the boundaries. Diffuse means they're not clear. So enmeshed boundaries are I don't know where I begin and where you begin. The most common thing I talk about is the 17 kids and counting when they were on TV, the J. Duggar girls and J. Duggar boys. First of all, we can't be surprised there was incest in the family. We can't be surprised at all because whenever families are enmeshed, there's incest. Okay. And Lord knows in genograms, we see it been passed down through generations. But we're talking about single families at this point. So in this family, the older kids were responsible for the younger kids. So mom and dad had, I don't know, what were they up to, like 20 kids? And the older kids, their job was to raise the younger kids. And I believe all kids should help out in the family, but I'm 12. Did I have a baby? Why isn't it my responsibility to take care of that 3-year-old? I didn't have that baby. Why am I making tater tot casserole for 37 people? I'm not the mama. So we see that all the time. We're seeing an increase in suicides in African American children. And that's a really big deal because that has something that doesn't usually happen in African American families. And the last research has been a lot of time the kids are expected to parent the younger ones. They don't have any free time after school. They come home from middle school, and now their job is to raise their younger sibling. That's not my job. I didn't have those kids. So those boundaries aren't clear. Am I the kid or I'm the adult? And you treat me like the adults. I'm supposed to raise the kids, but I better not look at you sideways. Like, wait a minute. So families have very clear boundaries and rules. You're the kid. This is what you do. This is what you don't do. I'm the parent. This is what I do. This is what you do. And we don't have those boundaries. They aren't clear. Then that's the problem. Rigid or enmeshed, disengaged or enmeshed, both of those are still the problems. So when I showed you here, I said they were semi-permeable, right? That means some things get through and some things don't get through. There are boundaries, but they're not rigid boundaries. So I know, let's go back. When you were a kid, what was the rule growing up? Could you go in your parents' bedrooms? Danita, I know you're like 12. Okay, you're 13. Okay, so I'm the younger generation. What was the rule in your house?
In mine,
Yeah.
I couldn't go in my mom's bedroom, but the biggest one was you can't eat in your bedroom too.
Ah, gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Now that's a preference, okay? That's not necessarily a structure, but we'll talk about that. But the structure are just the very clear rules. Okay. Somebody else. What was the rule in your house, Amber? You go in your mom and dad's room?
Absolutely not. Or
I
don't go
was
in your
afraid to go.
mama purse.
Oh, no, don't do that. Yeah, somebody else give me some rules. You all grew up with some kind of families. You weren't raised in the woods. What was the rule in your house? Mastermind.
No one come in your house
No one?
when they're at work.
When they're at work. Yes, yes, absolutely. Nobody can come over when they're at work. Yes.
The rule
I
when
couldn't answer the doorbell, and I was afraid to answer the door until I was like an adult because my mother and dad said if nobody's home, you don't answer the door. You don't answer the door. So it was used to terrify me if the doorbell rang because I'd be in trouble. Not of who it was. I'd just be in trouble with my mom and dad. That was my
Or don't
biggest worry.
or don't say what goes on in this house. Don't tell
Oh,
them.
oh, that's usually an unspoken rule, and that's a problem. If it's a spoken rule, it's clear, right? And that's the whole issue with families. When you have very clear rules, we're good. But we have unspoken rules, that's usually the bigger problem. And I don't think, did you ever really remember hearing that, or was that just a rule that you knew not to?
I heard it.
Okay, okay. Most of us just knew you just didn't do that.
Dr.
What about
Penn,
you,
would a
Jessica?
rule be like you eat what's made for dinner and you don't get off the table until the parents are done?
That's a rule. That's a rule. That's a rule. One of the first things you do when you start with a family that doesn't have any boundaries is you help them set boundaries. You have them set rules. Dinner time is usually at a certain time, right? This is dinner. This is dinner time. If you have to eat all your dinner before you have dessert, those are rules. And mom and dad need to enforce rules. What we know is if I don't learn rules and boundaries at home and I go to school, do I respect adults? If it's never happened at home, why would you expect me to go to school and have that? Like I said before, my enmeshed, those are the ones where the boundaries aren't clear, but it's yucky, gross. Those are the ones where I've heard stories where kids could never close their door. Kids couldn't close their door when they were showering. That's gross. Kids get privacy. Those are rules. That's really okay. But unhealthy families have rules like that. A family that I worked with one time, I sat down with them, and the first rule they had was, if you don't live here, you can't eat our food. That's that's kind of strange. That wasn't the first rule I would start off with. And there were four of them. Mom was a single mom, and she was getting a lot of money in food stamps, and she was dating a lot. And whatever man of the day just would come in and take all the food. Okay, so and for in their eyes, that was an important rule. But so because mom didn't enforce that, they really felt like they wanted to have their food to themselves. So the goal is if when they mesh families, we need to set up really clear boundaries. Disengaged or as well just as bad. Disengaged is I don't know what my kid is doing. We talk about the Columbine murders. That was the second school shooting, like 25 years ago now. And the kids were in the garage and making the bomb. And the mom's like, I didn't know what they were doing. No, mama, that's not an option. You have to know what your kids are doing. That is your job. So we see it in our wealthy families that mom and dad give you the car keys and the credit card, and they're gone for the summer. And our poor families, we see that mom's working three jobs, and you're still at home by yourself. So disengaged is too far apart, too distant. I don't know what you're doing. And enmeshed is you don't have any privacy at all. Okay. My enmeshed boundaries. One of the rules I think with families, children should have privacy. They should have privacy. I'm not going to go through my kids' rooms unless I have reason to. I'm not going to go through my kid's phone unless I have reason to. Okay. So it's their phone. I'm not going to go through and see if they're texting. I'm not, as long as things are good. Grades drop, behavior changes. I'm in that phone. I paid for that phone. It's my house, my rules. We work with moms and dads, but I can't do that. What do you mean you can't do that. You paid for that phone. But we respect their privacy, the same as we respect the privacy of adults, we respect the privacy of children. When we're looking at that, when we see diffused boundaries, that parents and children sometimes they act alike, they want to be friends. That talks about that same parenting style as well. Your Bomberdam's parenting styles. I want to be friends with my kids. That's the permissive parenting style. And that is not what we want to do.
My neighbors they had their guns in their cars, and their guns would so the kids would break into their cars, and they didn't know they eventually found out who was breaking into the cars, and so they caught one of the kids and they took the kid home, and the kid was bringing out all kinds of stuff from the room that they had stolen, and the parents said, "Oh, we don't go in our kid's room." But the kid
Okay.
had stolen so much stuff. It wasn't like he was keeping an inventory. I got this from this location, but he's just stealing all kinds of stuff.
Well, we're at least in one of the school shootings we saw where the parents were charged. And I think that's only happened once so far. That the parents were charged, and that was in Florida, I think, maybe.
Yeah, it was a Florida case.
Yeah, that's your job. And again, let's not pretend that there are children that have true mental illnesses. If that were the case, though, only one of us would have a job. One of us. I'd be room for one social worker if we had kids with true mental illness. Most often, we believe that it really has more to do with the family, right? We believe it's the whole system, not just the one system. So, anyway, hello. What's her name?
I'm sorry, it's Amori.
Hello. How are you? Come back to the camera. Just say hello.
Back to the camera so she can say hello.
Hi.
Come to the camera. No. Well, get out of there. Sorry.
No, it's quite all right. It's quite all right. Okay, so that is let me go back. Let me put this someplace else. Close myself. I want to go over this, but I don't want to lose my train of thought. Okay. Terms I'll see in a question to know that it is going to be a structural family therapy. First of all, what we know is that the structural family therapy is really a long time therapy. It's not a short, it's not a band-aid. It's one that really takes a bit of time to teach parenting skills, to remind mom and dad that they have to set the rules and how to set the rules. We'll see terms like subsystems, sibling subsystems, spousal subsystems. Parents not united, it means they have a weak parental subsystem. So when mom and dad can't make a decision on how to parent the kids together. So we know that other terms, joining, because these family systems are many times closed, it's hard for a clinician to get in. We're not talking like court order people, but someone who just wants to come and help the family. So Mnuchin said he had to join the family first. And what he used to join the family is called mimesis. Mimesis really talks about mimicking the family's behavior, not making fun of them, but when they their body language, if they sit in, then you sit in. If they sit back, you sit back. There's something unconscious about we like people that are like us. So if someone is kind of mimicking our behaviors, we like that. Tony Robinson used that when he was he still is the famous, he talks about, he's a presenter and you come and listen to all of his motivational speaking. He says that in job interviews, that if you do that with your interviewer, there's something about them that they will unconsciously really be drawn to you because we have kind of mimicked their body language. So joining and mimesis are key words to know they're talking about structural family therapy. Okay. The goal is to unbalance their homeostasis. And we all have our own homeostasis, but remember the families that we work with, their homeostasis is not healthy. They're trying to unbalance their routine, unbalance their norm. If I followed you for a week, I could figure out your homeostasis. We do the same thing every day. We get up, we do this, we do that, we go to the gym. We're creatures of habit. We like our routine. So do unhealthy families, right? Dad gets paid on Friday. He's cashed his check. And by Wednesday, there's no money left. And they're at the food bank. That happens every single week. Dad's spending his money gambling or on whatever, drugs, whatever. And it's the same pattern every single week. That's the homeostasis. That's the routine that we're trying to stop. So unbalancing, so we join the family to rock their world, unbalance their homeostasis. Okay, a power shift. What I want them to realize is that, this is not healthy. It can't keep running that way. You might see a question about a child, the families together, and father stopped drinking, and now the kid is using drugs because they like the crazy. They're used to the crazy. So dad is clean now, and the police aren't coming every time, and nobody's fighting, and no money is missing. So kid now is doing drugs because they go back to the crazy. The hardest part is to change our norm. When we had to go back to work after COVID, we like that, right? Not at all. I had nothing to wear. I was wearing sweatpants, sweatshirts. I didn't wear because we like our routine. So that is why we have to join the family first, establish rapport to unbalance them. We talk about boundaries, make sure there are very, very clear limits. For example, parents speak without the child interrupting. Children go to bed at 8:30. Whatever the rules are, we really help the family set up the rules and establish them. We have young families, or young moms especially, who don't know how to set the rules, don't know they're supposed to, and other people who just don't. So our job is to join the families, set the rules, make it very clear what we do, what we don't do in this house. When my kids were little, stupid was a bad word. It was great until the older ones got older and their friends would come over. And now my youngs were going, Mom, his friend is saying a bad word. Like, what is it? Stupid. That's so things like that. So in my house, you can't call me by my first name. I don't care who you are. That's not an option. So my kids' friends call me Miss Pam. They can call me Dr. Pam. They can call me whatever, but you don't call adults by their first name. Those are just the rules in my house. So that is our goal with structure family therapy, is to unbalance their norm by using mimesis to tighten up the boundaries, help them know the rules, make it very clear. Okay, that's structure. The other one is strategic, but before I go there, let's talk about bomb redems. Do we know these 4 parenting styles? So we know that the best one is authoritative. Authoritative means that I set the rules, but as they get older, we begin to change the rules and talk about it. At 3, we're not going to debate your bedtime. Nope, not at all. But at 13, we can then talk about a change of curfew. We can talk about how long you stay on the phone. So authoritative, think of talkative. There's control. I'm the mom. I set the rules, but it's also a warm fuzzy. Okay. We have children who come with rules, with expectations from homes. We know they have high self-esteem, good social skills, and emotionally regulated. Firm but fair. We explain the reason. We encourage autonomy. Again, not when they're 3. Okay, I don't want to see another parent that heads to the grocery store that's explaining to the 3-year-old why they should behave. We need a consequence of 3-year-old, and later on we can talk about the rules. Okay, but we're not going to debate with a 3-year-old. Mom and dad, you're in charge. Authoritarian is the worst, not the worst kind. That's the kind that those are the kind that mom and dad tell you exactly what to do, how to do, and you've never learned to do anything by yourself. At 16, it's because I told you so. So, well, that's great when you're little. When kids grow up, now we need more understanding. We need to know why and what's the danger. What are you worried about, Mom? So, authoritarian, very strict, very punitive, rigid. The child outcomes, they have a low self-esteem. They can be anxious or rebellious. They have poor social skills. They've never learned to make any decisions on their own. Okay, so those are my authoritarian students, my kids. That's what you'll see. Permissive, these are the ones that I said earlier that they just want to be their kids' friends. No rules, no boundaries, no control. Very loving, but very few rules. Whatever. Just go to bed when you feel like it. Okay, we'll try that. Avoids discipline, and the child makes the decisions. Those kids have very poor self-control, impulsive, difficulty with authority, no limits, no parent either, because the parent's just their friend and they rarely have discipline. And the worst kind is going to be then my uninvolved. They have just no idea what the kid is doing at all. No control, low warmth, I don't know. Detached, uninvolved, minimal guidance or support. The child outcomes has low very self-esteem, poor attachment, and risky behaviors. Mom's just not there. So I'm raising myself. It's bombered in the 4 styles of parenting. Again, my test takers, we've seen these on the test before. Yes, we have. They're always on there. When I say they're always on there, you may not see authoritarian, but you will see which is the best parenting style. And there's still content behind every question. Every question we look at, whether it's a first, next, there's content written behind it. So this is the piece that you're missing sometimes if you're not sure where they're going. So my other one is strategic family therapy. Now, strategic family therapy talks about how we talk to each other. We give parents strategies. One of the most common things that goes with strategic family therapy is the double bind and the paradoxical. Do you know those terms?
Double bind is it's just you can't win no matter
Got
what you
it.
win. And then the other paradoxal is when you tell the client to do the opposite of what you've been telling them to do. Example, if you tell them to go home and read a book and then you come back and did you read the book? No. You send them back home and you say you argue every day for 30 minutes.
Absolutely. 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 That is the paradoxical. So what we're looking for is in this theory, it's how families communicate. Okay, so these are not the ones that have no boundaries, no rules. These are the ones that I'm giving them techniques, tools of how we play the game. So what you'll find between strategic and structural is sometimes the words overlap. So reframing belongs to structural because it's how you set up your house, it's how you set up the rules. Relabeling belongs to strategic. They both mean the exact same thing. And on some test guides, I've seen them use the words interchangeably. But in reframing, in structural, it's reframing. So if I want to see the world differently, I'd reframe my front window, right? Put in a big old bay window. If I want to see the world differently. The word interpretation means looking at the child's behavior, the family's behavior differently. That's all reframing means. Okay. So it is looking at the world differently. It's not necessarily changing the meaning of the behavior. Yes, the meaning. However, strategic uses relabeling because I give it a different title, a different name, but it means the exact same thing. So if that's on the real test, those are hints. On some of the other practice tests I've seen laying around, they're not. Okay, but relabeling belongs to structural, strategic. Reframing belongs to structural. Okay. What I'm looking for in this one, give you an overview of it. So strategic family therapy is giving you tools to really help you. Second. It's giving you the tools to help you really be able to communicate better with the family. Remember, mom and dad are still in charge. There's still boundaries, there's still hierarchies, there's still rules. But in this situation, this is really helping mom and dad set the boundaries, set the rules, and help kids learn how to talk to each other. Reenactment, strategic, directive, paradoxical, and feedback loops. So directives are most often the very clear directives of what I tell the family to do. I can use a paradoxical directive. I can use any kind of directive. Whenever I see that word, that's strategic family therapy word. I'm giving you a clear and present task. Okay. The therapist assigns tasks between sessions. One of the other terms, like I said before, is you'll see the paradox, the paradoxical intervention. Sometimes you'll see the paradoxical directive. It means the exact same thing. All I'm asking the client to do is the opposite of what they want to do. It means the same thing. So prescribing the symptom is a type of the paradoxical intervention. I can only use it when I've tried other things and the family hasn't done anything at all. So I've got a family that comes in and they've got a 15-year-old and the 15-year-old won't follow the rules. She keeps staying out all night. She won't do her homework. She does whatever she wants to do. So the first thing I'm going to do with the family is I'm going to tell mom and dad, you're the mom and dad, set the rules, set the rules. Take her phone away. Okay, set some rules. Lock the door. Take the car keys away. They come back in the next session. They've done nothing. Not one intervention. And I've said to them, what did you try? What did you do? They come back in again. Girl, still complaining with the same issue. I'm going to say the same thing or something different. So perhaps have we thought about maybe, picking her up from school, taking her out of all the activities, pick her up from school and make sure you know where she's at from 3 o'clock till 10 o'clock at night. I've given a very clear directive. They come back next week. They've done nothing. That's when you use the paradox. The family, either you don't want to change or what? Why do you keep showing up to me saying you want to change, but you don't do anything I say? So the goal of the paradox is to make the family realize that maybe you like it the way it is. It's either do it or get off the pot. So I'm going to say to the family, fine, you know what? Instead of doing anything on Tuesday nights, why don't you just go and pick up all of her friends? You can buy them all beer and they can hang out at your house. If you grow the pot, that way she wouldn't be stealing money from you, right? Just go ahead and start doing that too. The goal is to help them realize either you want to change or you don't. Don't stop wasting all of our time because you aren't making any change. So the paradoxical is one of the prescribing symptom is one of the paradoxical techniques. Okay, tell the client to do the problem on purpose. And the goal is to break the resistance. Prescribing the symptom, they're used interchangeably. Okay, so I got a couple that's fighting. I tell them to fight every day at 5 p.m. EST for 30 minutes, every Tuesday, every day. Just something ridiculous because obviously you haven't used any of the skills and the tools I've given you and you haven't made any changes. So this is the opposite. Okay. I have seen Adler use it, but on the test, it almost always belongs to strategic family therapy. It's a communication style. Okay. Circular questioning. Circular questioning is used in families as well as in groups. What do you think it means?
Is that asking the same question over?
Exactly. Everybody gets asked the same question. What do you think the problem is? What do you think the problem is? What do you think? Everybody asks the exact same question. There's another term that you should know. It's circular causality and linear causality. causality, and it's where the problem comes from. Families would like to believe there's linear causality. Dad lost his job. Now the son started acting out at school. Mom started drinking, and mom lost her job. It's all dad's fault. We don't believe that as a family. We believe in circular causality. They'd like to think it's one person's fault. There's one direction. You did this, and that's why this happened. That's not true. In families, we believe in circular causality because in families, it's the whole system that's the problem, not one person. So everybody influences everybody all at the same time. I'm not sure which came first, the chicken or the egg. I don't know if dad started drinking because he's an alcoholic or because he lost his job. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The whole family is the problem. And the whole family is the solution, not fixing one person. The IP, the identified patient, family therapy doesn't believe in that. It's the whole family that's the problem. That's bi-directional. It means it goes either way, and recursive. So it just kind of circles around and around and around. Focused on interactional patterns, there's no single cause. We don't know what caused it. And it doesn't matter. What matters is we fix the whole system. Remember, we don't see families. If the child is our client, the child is our client. We can do one session with the family, but if their child is our client, that's it. If our family is the client, then we see families together. We would never see a child separately if the family is our client. I know it's not how you practice in the real world. That's test world answers. That's what the test wants you to know. So if your couple is your family, you're the couple or your client, you can't see the couple separate. You always see them together. Okay. The couple can't, I can tell you something. Can't tell about this. Can't do that. They're my client. The family is my client. There are no secrets in family therapy. So group, individual, they're still my client. If there's ever any domestic violence anywhere in any family or couples group, we refer both of them out. Okay, we don't see them, either one of them, and we will never see them together as a family. Those are code of ethics questions that are related to family. Okay, so again, anyway, that's circular causality. So circular questioning is asking everybody the same question. Causality is what we believe how families work. That's the problem in the family. The double bind, that's exactly what she said. The double bind is, well, I put in there anyway, look at that. The double bind is damned if I do, damned if I don't. I can't win. The wife complains that her husband never takes her out to dinner, and he says, okay, fine, let's go to dinner right now. It's not fair. I asked you to go. We're not going now. That's not fair. None of us have ever done that, women, right? Never, ever, ever. I want roses, but I don't want you to know that I don't want you to buy them because I want roses. I want you to know that I like roses and then buy them because you know that I like them, not because I told you to. There's not a win there. It's not a win.
Read my mind.
Exactly. That's the double bind. Okay. And again, so therapists may create controllable double binds. You won't see it on your test. Okay. First and second order changes. First and second order changes. A first order change is fake, and the second order change is real. I can't get to the second order change until I get to the first order change. So an example would be a family comes in with a new baby, and there's a 4-year-old, and the 4-year-old is trying to get dad's attention. She misbehaves, she cries. I tell dad to ignore the 4-year-old's behavior. Do I want him to really ignore it forever? No, I just want him to go through the motions, fake it for a little bit. Eventually, what'll happen is the 4-year-old will learn that's not how you get dad's attention. And then we get to the real change where kids stops acting out. First order changes are superficial. Second order changes are real. But I can't get to second order until I get to first order. A first order change may be telling the if there's a child text, my heart races because they know I'm working. So again, this is strategic family therapy. This is where I'll see these terms, first and second order change. The first order is a behavior shift, but nothing really, the system stays the same. I'm going through the behaviorally, but nothing is really happening with the overall changing of the family. The second order change is what you'll ask for. Now, you might say, I'd have never seen this on the test, but you have. They just don't use the verbiage. Every time there's a question, there's something underneath that they're asking you. I'll show you what it looks like in questions, but they're there. These are the contents below those questions. Okie dokie. My last one, well, my last big one is Bowen. Tell me about Bowen. What did he do, guys? You all had that mean teacher that made you go home and ask your family business and put it on paper. The genogram, 3 generations. Did you really do it or just make it up?
I made mine up.
Yeah, most of my students do. If I really do it, ask your mom if that's really my daddy. You know, do that. Everybody did one. You remember doing one? You had a family therapy class. You did. You did. Bowen is the genogram. That's the one thing I want you to always remember. The mean teacher that made you do the genogram, it belongs to Bowen. 3 generations. What's the reason for doing the genogram? Not just to get an A either, okay? What's the reason?
Was it to kind of delineate family structure and dysfunction? I think we also talked about birth order.
He does talk about birth order, but not, you won't find him on this test. That's going to be Adler with birth order. One sec. Bowen does do birth order, but you're not going to see him on this test with birth order. It's going to be Adler. Okay. The goal is when your teacher was doing it, when we assign it, if you've ever used it with the family, it's to really put on paper to see the things that just keep getting passed down and passed down and passed down. But when it says if we're going to continue to do what we do, at least know why. I really believe if it weren't for like the genogram and we're doing what we've always done, I don't think Trump would be our president. I think we vote because we've always voted that way. If you ask people before the election why they voted, because we've always done it that way. That's just what we do. And that's what Bowen says. We keep passing things down and down and down without giving it a second thought because we've always done it that way. So the 3 generations, many times we are looking at issues of drugs and alcohol. We're looking at child abuse. We're looking at marriages, people not being married, having babies out of wedlock. All of those things are the patterns that we're looking for. And for a lot of people, when I actually put it down on paper, it's like, wow, I made it this far. A lot of my substance abusers, when they look at what they've come from, and what happened here and what happened in both sides of my family, and the fact that yes, I'm an alcoholic, but look where I came from. It's really shocking to kind of see it on paper. When I was teaching college, I would always tell my students the same thing. You don't have to. You just have to. When we had classes face to face, you had to tell us about your genogram, and we were reading the lines, make sure we understood what was what. But you don't have to give me details. I'd always have somebody gives us some details. Somebody's boo-hooing because they found out their mom was really their cousin, or they thought it was their daddy and it really wasn't. So, and I warned them at the beginning of the semester, you've got to do this project, and my mom won't tell me nothing. I mean, you got to ask somebody else, somebody family. And I'm not trying to get the family secrets. I'm trying to help you understand how it works. And also then I really think they're great with families. I do. I think that when you're looking at the things we pass down and why we do what we do, it really kind of gives an eye opener. So the reason that we do what we do is the issue. And then he wants us to differentiate ourselves. He wants us to understand why we do what we do. So if we look at something as simple as our holiday meals, that's usually where it's so very clear. We just had Easter. How many of y'all had Easter the way your mom and them made it? I had some ham. Nobody? Nobody had traditional Easter dinner like y'all? Manana, did you make it like your mama made it?
Yes.
Like her mama made it too? Why?
Yep.
Why?
You said why?
Uh-huh.
You said why?
Yes, why?
I guess
That's
it's
just
just
what we do.
it's just what we do. It's just what I grew up seeing and the norm.
Ah, okay. Again, why? And especially when we see and I live in the South, so Southern families, we know we got the high blood pressure, we got the sugar, we got the diabetes, and in the South, we know how to, mess up from fruits and vegetables, right? We put some sugar on the fruit and some corn, some sugar, sorry, salt on the fruit and sugar in the vegetables. You got to put
Yeah.
some sugar in them green beans, right?
Yeah. I live in the South as well.
Why? Because that's what we've always done. But is it good for us?
Nope.
Not at all. Not at all. So, what he says again, if we're going to continue those patterns, at least know why. And so many of the things, the way that we parent comes from our parents.
Right.
Okay? So we're looking at why we do those things. So differentiation of self means the ability to separate my thoughts and my emotions from my family's thoughts and emotions. Just because that's how they behave, that's not, I don't have to do that. I can tell you it's a really hard thing to do. It is hard to stand up to Big Mama, right? Because we don't do that. We don't do that in families. We don't do that. When I told my family that I wasn't going to spank my children and they better not put their hands on my kids, do you know what I heard? They were going to be heathens. I was raising heathens. That's what they're all going to be heathens. They turned out okay. They might be heathens, but they're educated heathens. Okay. They ain't going to jail. They're all grown. And that was hard to do. My mother had died. So it was a lot easier because my mother had died. And his mother didn't like me anyway. So whatever. But honestly, that is just the pattern that I refuse to pass down. It came from slavery. Our grandparents, our great-grandparents, our great-grandparents, they were beat. They passed it down. They passed it down to their mama. My mama used to beat the hell out of me. Because that's what we do. No, we're not. That's not okay. That's what I'm choosing not to pass down. And again, when you do it, it was easy because my mama died. I told you that, right? Because if she hadn't died, I ain't no way I would have said nothing to nobody. But as I had children after I finished college, I'd taught parenting classes, and I just wasn't going to do that. And don't think that I didn't rule the roost. This is my house, judge, jury, and executioner if necessary. But there's no place else in society that you put your hands on people, and that's okay. Why is it okay that we do it with our kids? So there's no reason. And again, I'm the parent. I'm the parent. I set the rules. Believe me, there are many days they come home and there be no door on their room. Come home with no stuff in their room because I own that house. I act like you own this house. There are rules, but you don't have to put your hands on people. Things like that are really hard to change. And most of us, it takes, and he talks about emotional cutoff. Emotional cutoff is when I decide that I don't have to, my feelings don't have to be the same as everybody else in the 3 generations. That we don't have to think the same. I don't have to do exactly the same as they did. Emotional cutoff is the emotional piece. So if I differentiate myself, that really is, I can still be in the family and differentiate myself. So I just have very different rules and beliefs than you do. A family that has low differentiation is very reactive and fused. Fused means the same thing as enmeshment. It just goes to Bowen. So fused is when those families, I don't know where I started and you began. That's fusion. Enmeshment is structural. Same term, just different people. People that are highly differentiated in their family, when we get together for Christmas and Easter, ain't no guns, ain't nobody threatening to kill nobody. Look at that. See, everybody's got their own thoughts and behaviors. I know never at your house, so we see on TV that, somebody dies at Christmas or somebody got knifed over the Thanksgiving dinner. That's because those families are very, very, they think they should feel the same, think the same, and behave the same way. And then we pass those things down and down and down. Tell me how many stories I've heard of parents who got drunk and Santa forgot to come. That's not funny. My parents did it to me. So what he wants us to do is to separate ourselves. Triangulation comes from him. Okay. What is triangulation?
That's when two parents or two people have something going on, they bring in a third person. Now the focus is on the third person.
Got it. Okay. So it stops the fighting between the two, but just temporarily. So we don't want to do that. We want to learn to talk to each other and not have to have that third person. Detriangulation is what the therapist does. We try to help families not be triangulated like that because we want them to really be healthy people. This one you'll see is family projection process. That is the same thing as projection. So projection, the defense mechanism. So things about myself that I don't like. If I use the family projection process, I am projecting things I don't like onto future generations. So many times it is the grandchild wants money to go to college, and grandma says, I didn't go to college. I turned out just fine. Things about myself that I don't like. Now I'm projecting onto future generations. Okay, that's family projection process. Sometimes it's also called family projection identification, means the same kind of thing. And the goal we're looking for, when I know it's a genogram question, it's multi-generational transmission. Patterns are passed across generations. And like most of the families that we work with, they're unhealthy parents. Okay. And we're not talking about a genetic passing. We're talking about patterns that we've seen our whole lives and that we've learned. Okay. So that is Bowen. You might see this one on the LC. This is it's called the Gottman method. It's the 4 horsemen, the downfall of a marriage. There are 4 things that cause a downfall of a marriage. This is by Gottman. It's sometimes you'll see the word bibliotherapy. It means you tell the client to read a book. So it doesn't necessarily mean the Bible. It just means read a book. It is usually belongs to CBT because I'm having clients change the way that they think. So CBT is change what you think, the way you feel, therefore the way you behave. So bibliotherapy, and this one is the Gottman book. I am old. I used to use men are from Mars, women are from Venus. And I tell the couples, go home and read the book. We'll come back, we'll discuss it. That's the bibliotherapy. Okay, so criticism, contempt, defensiveness, stonewalling. Stonewalling is I can't talk about it. I'm not talking about it right now. Nope. Defensiveness is wasn't me. What are you talking about? Nope, wasn't me. And then contempt is the worst one. Contempt is when you fight dirty. And instead of talking about what's happening right now, we bring up stuff that happened 10 years ago, things that they still hold resentment. So instead of doing a criticism, we teach families to couples do a gentle startup. What are I statements?
owning what your feelings are and what you're thinking. Same.
Yes.
Yeah.
Specifically though, I feel when you behave.
Yes.
Okay. So that's what you'll say on the test. I feel when you behave. Those are I statements. Okay. So instead of your husband coming home late or your partner coming home late and you're yelling at them, I made dinner, where were you? To say, I was worried because you're late changes the conversation. Okay? Those are I statements. A culture of appreciation. So instead of the contempt, remember we talk about having 3 pauses for every negative. So building a culture of this wonderful relationship, putting the good stuff in. Defensiveness, own it, just that you take care, own that you did it. And stonewalling is psychological self-soothing. What you'll see on the test question sometimes is the client, they become flooded with emotions and they just can't, they ignore or they walk away from the fight or they won't talk to their partner. So learn to self-soothe, and that way you're able to not withdraw from the setting. Okay, so then those are my terms. I'm going to give you some questions of recall, and then we'll look at some questions of what it may look like in a family. Anybody seen Satir? She's on there sometimes. Yes, no?
I've never seen her.
Okay. We're going to just do recall to begin with. And recall is just to learn the verbiage of the theorist. And then I will show you what it looks like in test questions. And again, the vagueness is what surprises most people. Okay. Who would like to take this question? Be brave.
I will.
Thank you.
A family presents with blurred rules between parent and child, with the child making decisions typically reserved for adults. What should the clinician
skip that one. Oh, sorry.
address first?
Nah, skip that one.
Oh.
That one.
A therapist asks a family to reenact a recent argument during session. This intervention most directly reflects. They're asking them to reenact an argument.
Do you know who reenactment belongs to? Have you seen that before?
I have not.
Reenactment is literally, it belongs to structural family therapy. And he asks you to literally act out what happened at home so he can watch you and kind of observe how you talk to each other and how you acted together. Okay.
A, cognitive restructuring. B, experiential processing. C, interactional restructuring. D, narrative reframing. Therapist asks the family to reenact. I'm gonna.
So tell me what's happening in the question. It's one line, right? So what is it asking me?
To reenact an argument.
Okay.
And
why do I want to do that? Let's read all 4.
A cognitive restructuring.
Do you know what that means?
Changing the way they think about.
Yeah, and that's CBT. Okay, so we're learning terms. This cognitive restructurings. You've got stinking thinking. So CBT says we're going to change the way that you think.
I'm going to take B, experiential. I think that's what this is, experiential
Yeah.
processing.
We'll take that out.
And the reenacting.
Have no clue what the words mean. We're taking a guess here, but we're going to take an educated guess. I said to you that it belongs to structural family therapy.
I am thinking, okay. Is that interactional restructuring? I can't.
That's all that means. I'm watching you interact, and I'm going to restructure the way that we talk to each other.
All right.
It's really that simple. When there are words you don't know, most of us just freeze. I want you to really learn not to freeze and just know the parts and pieces of it so I can figure out what they're talking about. Okay. Like this one then, because that one's really harder than it needs to be. Sorry.
A clinician instructs a couple to deliberately schedule their arguments each evening at 7 p.m. This intervention best reflects. They're asking them to schedule their arguments for 7 p.m. And this best reflects. A, reframing. B, paradox. C, externalization. D, psychoeducation. I'm going to take out D, psychoeducation.
What does that mean?
I think that's the same with CBT. They're about what they're thinking.
So psychoeducation, we can teach you anything in our wheelhouse.
Okay.
I can teach you parenting skills. I can teach you how to anything that's in my wheelhouse.
All right.
I can teach you how to handle depression. So it's psycho, our field, teaching you.
And I'll take out C, externalization.
That belongs to narrative therapy.
Okay. And I'm asking them to deliberately schedule their arguments. I'm going to say it's B, paradox.
It is. Okay, that's a strategic family therapy term. And that's exactly what that means, the opposite. Reframing is looking at it differently, and that belongs to structural family therapy. Oops. But this one, a parent says, like that one, Crystal.
Say you need to speak up more, but stop being so loud. So you have this parent, he's asking the child to speak up more, but stop being so loud. You have A, circular questioning, double block bind, first order change, and directive. We're going to take out D. First order change. We're going to also take out first order change. And we're going to take out circular questioning, and the answer is B.
I got it. That's what it looks like. So it's like I can't win. There's no way to win there. Who wants this one? The partner comes home.
A partner comes home angry after a stressful work day, and begins criticizing their spouse over minor issues. So you have a spouse that's coming home angry and they're criticizing spouse about every little thing. A, projection. B, displacement. C, denial. D, intellectualization. So it's not intellectualization, and it's not denial. So get rid of C and D. And it's not projections, displacement.
Who are they mad at, really?
They mad at the people at work.
Got it. And took down the wrong person. Good, good. Okay. Closer to what it looks like on a test. Looks like this one, Jessica.
A 12-year-old boy has been referred due to increasing behavioral outbursts at home. During the session, the mother frequently answers questions directed at the father, while the father remains quiet and disengaged. The child interrupts both parents and attempts to redirect the conversation. The clinician asks the family to demonstrate a recent conflict. During the interaction, the child raises his voice while the mother defends him and the father withdraws. What should the clinician do first? A, the child's emotional regulation strategies.
Stop. You know, we go back to the question. Understand the question first.
Okay. So we have a 12-year-old boy has been referred due to increasing outbursts at home. And during the session, the mother answers questions that are directed at the father, while the father remains quiet and disengaged. The child interrupts both parents and attempts to redirect the conversation. The clinician asks the family to demonstrate, or I guess reenact a recent family conflict. During the
I'm sorry, my dog
interaction,
had plastic in her mouth. Okay, so I heard you read it again, but did you paraphrase it or just read it again?
I read it again and then I kind of paraphrased it, but it's
Okay, so
reading.
you understand what it's asking me.
Okay, 12-year-old boy has been referred due to
Do
increasing
you
behavior.
understand what it's asking you? That's all that matters to me. Do you understand?
Yeah, so
Okay.
the 12-year-old boy is basically trying to reenact something that he saw at home. The mom defends the boy. The
Mhm.
father continues to withdraw.
Okay.
What should the clinician do first? The child's emotional regulation strategies, the interactional sequence maintaining the outburst, the cross-generational alignment discussing the parental hierarchy, the father's avoidance of conflict. Um, okay. So out of all of these, which should the clinician do first?
Mhm.
I'm not sure how to rule out. But I would say the child's emotional regulation strategies I would rule out first.
Okay. It's describing me like what's happening in the question.
What's what's happening in the question is the dad is remaining quiet and disengaged, and then
Mhm.
the clinician is asking the family to, I guess, duplicate that, and the
Mhm.
father continues to be withdrawn.
Okay. So when I do play it in my office, I see the father raise his voice while the mother defends him and the father withdraws. Keep
Um,
going.
I would eliminate C.
I don't see any multi-generational thing going on.
Um, and I would probably discuss the father's avoidance of conflict.
Why?
It seems to be a common occurrence that whenever something happens, he tends to withdraw.
Okay. That pattern is what concerns me. So that's the pattern. Every time this happened, the kid then does the same thing. So I'm trying to change their homeostasis. That's what it's asking me. It maintains this craziness. That makes sense?
Yes.
Be brave, Amber.
When a therapist is working with a couple who continually fight about money, the therapist decides to shift the focus from the content of the arguments to the process of how they fight. The therapist is focusing on
What's happening in the question?
a therapist is working with a couple and they keep fighting about money. So the therapist puts the focus of the arguments about how they process the fight, how they fight. So it's asking, what is the therapist focusing on? A, linear causality. B, circular
It's
causality.
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 So it's the cause of it.
Gotcha. C, complementary causality, and D, neutral causality. Mhm. I am going to eliminate C.
The question is, I'm not dealing with the issue is not about the money. It's about how they. So the therapist decides to focus on decides to shift the focus from the content as opposed to the process. The linear is the this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. That's linear. She doesn't want to talk about what they think was the problem. She wants to talk about how they fight. That makes sense? So linear would be we're fighting because you didn't pick up your underwear. But that's not really the problem. The problem is how we fight. So linear is there's a cause and effect. Circular is the whole family is the problem. Make sense? I know it's a foreign language. I promise you. Like I've never seen these words. They usually are on the test, and many times we just skip them because we don't know them. We can do the ones that are like first and next, but a lot of times we just get lost with the content. Everybody get that? Haven't met. It's Minette.
Going therapist working with in bed in enmeshed
Enmeshed.
enmeshed family will likely do all except A, work only with parents. B, avoid becoming immersed in conflicts. C, work first with least differentiated members. Or D, require family to talk to therapists rather than each other.
What's the question asking me?
So it's asking the Bowen therapist working with enmeshed families would likely do all except
Okay.
the Bowen
So what I'm
therapist.
looking for is that if I three of these things are things that I would do. One is not. Oh, that's a key question too. Yeah, no, we're gonna skip that one. Yeah, no, we're not. We're not. I teach for the LMFT and I'm trying to give you ones that you'll see, and I'm not gonna do that one. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, you have been seeing Bill, a 35-year-old successful businessman, for over a year. He is happily married and has 2 children whom he loves very much. His goal is to work on improving communication with his father, who he struggles to get along with. During the current session, Bill tells you he had he had a very disturbing dream last night. He had a dream he molested his 6-year-old daughter. He is visibly shaken and confused. You should A, report child abuse immediately. B, explain limits and explore abuse. C, gather info before deciding. Or D, help Bill understand feelings, reassure, and provide support.
So what's happening to
Okay,
my
so
question?
the question, like you say, okay, I've been seeing Bill. He's a 35-year-old businessman for over a year. He's married, um, with 2 children. He wants to improve communication with his father, who he struggles to get along with. During the session, he tells me he had a dream about him molesting his 6-year-old daughter. He's shaking and he's confused. I wouldn't report child abuse because it's just a dream.
Mhm.
Um, I wouldn't explain the limits, and I wouldn't even explore abuse. So yeah, uh,
Yeah,
so it's
I'm
either a
just
C
saying
or D.
yes.
Yes, I would help him understand his feelings, reassure him, and provide support.
Got it. It was just a dream. It was just a dream.
Yeah, it was just a dream.
Who would like that one?
A partner who feels resentment begins acting overly affectionate and excessively agreeable. So you have a client who felt some resentment, then they just kind of changed, and now they are in agreement with everything. So you have reaction formation, sublimation, denial, and displacement is not displacement. That's putting on something that you feel for somebody else onto another one.
It's the one above it. Do you not see that one? Minutia and least consistent.
Oh, which this
It wasn't there before. I just put I added it there.
okay, which statement is least consistent with
Yeah.
Mnuchin's boundary theory? All right. A, mesh family lets child stay home for phobia. B, disengaged parents fail to notice when children need support. C, mesh infant receives lots of stimulation. D, in a disengaged family, conflicts is a substitute for love and affection. So which statement is least consistent with Mnuchin's boundary? Okay. Um, so disengaged family, conflict is a substitute for love and affection, which is the least. Enmesh infant received lots of stimulation. Disengaged parents fail to notice when children need support. I will get rid of B.
So it's not questions. We're raising. We're taking out what is true.
It's true. Okay.
So B is true.
Um, and then enmesh family lets child stay home for phobia. Enmesh infant receives lots of stimulation. In a disengaged family, conflict is a substitute for love and affection. Um, Boundary. So, enmesh. I will get rid of. Wait, it said accept.
So what is true?
It's true. Um, in disengaged family, conflict is a substitute.
So enmesh families let children stay home for phobias. When you treat social phobia, it's never the kid, it's the mom. The mom doesn't have clear boundaries. So it's never the kid. It's mom who doesn't want the kid to go to school.
Okay.
Okay, so that is true.
All right. And then I think uh I think D could be true as well.
Okay. So C, enmeshed infants receive lots of attention. It's when you're an infant, is enmeshment possible?
No.
That's normal parenting. So enmeshment is when we're grown up, right? And then we're not, as a little kid, mom's job is to take care of me. That's not enmeshment. That's healthy parenting. Okay. Crystal, you want this one?
In an enmeshed family, members separate easily. Members are intertwined in each other's life. Clear boundaries exist between persons and between subsystems. And in an enmeshed family, members separate easily. Members are intertwined with each other's lives. Clear boundary exists between persons and between subsystems. I would take out A and C,
Okay.
and B is the answer.
Got it. Got it. Okay. 1 second. Let me pull another set of questions. What I want you to do is really just get familiar with the terminology. So when you see it in the questions, you know what they're talking about. Okay, Milan. Milan is not happy right now. Like that one. Volunteers, come on. Who wants to pass the exam? Thank you very much, Nicole. Appreciate that.
I want to pass the exam. A 15-year-old client was recently referred to a therapist at a community counseling center for an initial assessment after throwing a chair at another student at school. The mother reports this is the first incident of this type, but that the client's parents recently divorced a month ago. In order to develop the therapeutic relationship, the therapist must first. 15-year-old client recently referred to a therapist at a community counseling center for an initial assessment after throwing a chair at another student. The mother says this is the first incident of this type. The parents recently divorced a month ago. In order to develop the therapeutic relationship, the therapist must first A, go over the limitations of confidentiality with the client. B, complete a biopsychosocial assessment. C, play a game to lessen the stress of the first session. D, get a release of confidentiality from the mother to talk to the client's teacher. This is a 15-year-old.
What's happening in the question?
They're concerned that about the child's behavior. It's a 15-year-old, and the mother said that the parents have recently divorced a month ago, and in order to develop a therapeutic relationship, the therapist must first.
Let's read all four.
A, go over the limitations of confidentiality with the client. B, complete a biopsychosocial assessment. C, play a game to lessen the stress of the first session. D, get a release of confidentiality from the mother to talk with the client's teacher. So I'm going to take A and D out of there. And the behavior of the child. First incident. Well, this is the initial assessment, so I might need to go over that confidentiality. And this is from the teacher.
You're lost in my question.
I am lost.
Okay, so when we're lost in the question, we don't understand the question. Okay, so go back to the question. So tell me in your own words what's happening.
The 15-year-old is referred to a therapist for the initial assessment after throwing a chair at another student. Mm-hmm. The mother said this is the first incident of this type, but that the parents recently divorced a month ago.
Okay.
And the therapist wants to develop a therapeutic relationship.
What's the question asking? What's the question?
What must the therapist do first?
To do what?
First.
To what?
Talk about the limitations
No,
of
in order to develop the therapeutic relationship. That's what the question's asking me. How do I establish rapport with this 15-year-old first? I'm trying to develop a therapeutic relationship. Does that make sense? That's the piece I think you're not understanding in the question. That's maybe what's making it more difficult.
Okay, 15.
And maybe I'm wrong, so if it's okay.
I guess they want to play a game to lessen the stress of the first session.
Somebody share your thoughts.
I think we're supposed to assess first.
In order to develop the therapeutic relationship, that's the key to the question. Of all these things, what would I do first?
The biopsychosocial assessment.
My answer is A.
Okay, go over the limitations and confidentiality.
In order for me to build that therapeutic alliance, he's got to trust me. If he tells me something that I have to go back and then tell his mother, we're never going to get anywhere.
Okay. All right.
So the first thing I need to do is make sure we're on the same page. Everything you tell me is not okay in here, right? So everything is not secret.
Right. So they'll understand.
We all got stuck on that one, didn't we?
Yeah, so they'll understand why if they tell me something that they're like, maybe they want to harm themselves, they have to understand why I'm talking to their parents.
The rule up front, before you do anything, before you open your mouth, I want you to know the limitations. Of the four choices, that's the best answer. Okay. Mastermind.
So would that, in the social worker helping process, would that be considered engagement?
It's the best of the four answers. Remember, every situation is different, every question is different. In this one of the four answers, I'm not going to, the biopsycho assessment won't build my therapeutic relationship, will it?
No. Well,
A game might, but do I see that he's stressed?
no.
And I'm going to get a release, right? But I'll let the question ask me, in order to develop the therapeutic relationship of these four things, what would I do first?
Okay.
Every question is different. So when I get to the test and I expect the answers to be like the one I saw last time, I got to figure out, of the four, which was the most important thing to help build this therapeutic relationship. I know I don't write the test. I'm just telling you it's of the four. Let's see if I can find another one like that. Where would this be on the test? What do you think, what area they were measuring on this?
Ethics.
Yeah, absolutely. Remember, we're always thinking assess, assess, assess. That's what I would do first, always. But there's no assess in this question. And in order to build a therapeutic relationship is the question. So that's what I'm looking for, is how do I do that? Volunteers? Come on,
I can try.
go ahead. Thank you.
A social worker in private practice meets with a 90-year-old man who recently lost his wife to 2 years. The client reports that since his wife passed away, he has been feeling irritated, does not have much energy, and has trouble falling asleep. A hospital social worker met with the client and conducted a clinical evaluation for depression. What did the social worker do first? Okay, so we have a 90-year-old man who recently lost his wife of 60 years, and he reports that since his wife passed away, he has been feeling irritated, does not have much energy, and has trouble falling asleep. What did the social worker has met with the client and conducted a clinical evaluation for depression. And out of these responses, what did the social worker do first? A, demonstrate an acceptance of the client's feelings of loss. B, provide psychoeducation about depression. C, complete a mental status examination. D, contact the hospital social worker for additional information. So you are in private practice, it looks like, and he was at a hospital at some point, and they conducted a clinical evaluation for depression.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't think that I would complete a mental status examination. And
Okay.
I don't think that I would reach out for collateral for the hospital social worker for additional information.
So we took out C and D.
Yes. Um, Going back to the question, I can't go up because you scrolled up. So you're a social worker in private practice and you're meeting with the 90-year-old man who recently lost his wife of 60 years. The client reports that his wife has passed away and he's been feeling irritated, does not have much energy, and has trouble falling asleep. A hospital social worker met with the client and conducted a clinical evaluation for depression. What did the social worker do first? Um, this is tough because it's obviously between A and B, I think.
It is. I'm going
Um,
to end the question. I'm trying to prove either one.
there's feelings in the question. Could there be feelings in the answer? So if he's feeling irritated, does not have much energy, and has trouble falling asleep.
I'm not sure those are the feelings I acknowledge, but
But
that is the answer. Do you know why?
oh, A is the answer?
Uh-huh. Can you tell me
Okay.
why? What words in the question tell me why?
Um, well, well, there's a demonstration or an acceptance that he is feeling grief at this
No, he
point.
just recently lost his wife. That's all. That's all.
Yeah.
He's 90 and he recently lost his wife of 60. I know. I don't write the test. Okay. So
I
so
just
I'm
want to
gonna tell
pass,
you.
even if it's 1 point. I just want to pass. This is over with.
So does everybody that's very common, right? We get down to two and then we got to figure out how we can prove it in the question. Instead of taking the
Mhm.
two to each other, you go back to the question. And just because, and I know they put it in there sneaky, don't they? Can't they just like put it in red letters and neon lights of like what the answer should be?
They should, honestly. It would save us a lot of money.
It would.
But I
I
do have a
know.
question.
But you would
Now
do this anyway in real life.
yeah. So I guess my question is, I know that obviously the answer is A, but B was pretty good, and I was almost on the cusp of picking B. But I'm assuming, well, we shouldn't assume, they already referred for a clinical evaluation for depression. So I think providing psychoeducation about depression would just almost be redundant here.
Where do you see that in the question?
A client conducted a clinical evaluation for depression. So he was at the hospital at some point.
Does it say that they educated him?
No.
Don't add words. Don't add words. Don't guess. Don't assume.
What would make, I mean, why wouldn't B be the
Don't go
answer
there.
then?
Don't go there. I don't care what comes next. So I just only one. What I don't care. We don't have to put them in order. No. His wife died. He comes in here, he's 90, and he says, honey, my wife is 60 years just died. What are you gonna say first?
I mean, you're validating then.
That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. You're human. That's what you would do.
Yeah. Okay, because I would have started taking out, well,
Yeah,
A,
that's
B,
all
and
you're
C,
gonna do.
but
All you're gonna do is he's 90. I might not have time to evaluate to teach him about depression. He's 90. I'm sorry.
he's got 2 months top.
He's 90. By the time I finish evaluating him, he's like half his time left is gone. When you take questions all day, I think you get so used to looking for an answer that you don't know to go, you still get not going back to the question. That's the piece that people miss. Go back to the question. Last one, guys. Who wants it?
During an initial evaluation, a 53-year-old man reports that he is upset regarding his sex life with his wife. Oh. He reports that they used to have an active sex life, but that since his wife started menopause a few months ago, she often refuses sex or says she isn't in the mood. The client has done online research that has normalized his wife's experience, but he still believes that she may be having an affair. The social worker's most appropriate action is to. So you have a 53-year-old man, his wife is going through menopause, she's not giving it up. He thinks that she's cheating, and they want to know what is the most appropriate thing for the social worker, the most appropriate action for the social worker to take. A, suggest that the wife have a medical evaluation. B, provide psychoeducation about the effects of menopause on desire. C, offer couples therapy to the client and his wife. D, suggest individual therapy to help the husband address his frustration. There's a 50-year-old man, 53-year-old. So, C, I would get rid of.
That's your answer.
Right? Really?
Yeah.
Why, when he's the client?
We'll go back and read. It just read through it.
Hmm?
I said, go back and read through the question. You read through it. You didn't take the time to kind of break it apart.
Initial evaluation, 53-year-old man reports he is upset about his sex life with his wife. He reports that they used to have an active sex life, but since his wife started menopause a few months ago, she often refuses sex or says she isn't in the mood. The client has done online research that has normalized his wife's experience, okay? But he still believes that she may be having an affair. The social worker's most appropriate action is to.
So, is this normal human behavior?
What, menopause and
Huh? Yep. And lack of sex drive, isn't that just normal human behavior?
yes.
Okay. So then let's go through A. Suggest the wife have a medical evaluation.
She already knows it's wrong.
Ain't nothing wrong. Good life. Right? That's life. That's just life. Okay. Why not B?
He already did his research.
Okay. So C? I'm sorry, D?
Suggest individual therapy to help the husband address his frustration. That's what I would have picked. Because he's the one
Okay.
fucking the wife not mad.
It's a couple and it's the first session. If I don't have a therapeutic relationship with them, I can see them as a couple. It's our first session. I'm evaluating.
Okay.
If I'd seen him for 6 sessions, I couldn't see them as a couple.
See, I didn't see where the wife came in. I thought just the husband had came in.
He did. It's just him, but it's his initial session.
Okay.
So I can still see them as a couple. If I've been seeing him as a client for 6 sessions, I couldn't see the couple together. But
Okay.
it's my initial session. In my initial session, we realize it's a couples issue. I can see them both together. Thus, it's the first session.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
He's frustrated because they can't have sex. We can talk about other ways of intimacy. We can talk about, maybe even just her. I can't make him feel loved. I know. I swear I don't write the test. I don't. And they're in there. They're in there. They're in there. We just have to. It's a reading test. Stupid little things like that change the answers. Okay, guys, I will send you questions. I will send you everything that I used today. Okay, remember the main thing is the verbiage. So I recognize the verbiage in the clients. And they're always going to be in the test. I know you think I don't need this stuff, but I promise you they're in the test. The content is in there. It's a reading test, always, always, but it's in there. Okay. Mastermind, can you hang out for a minute?
Yes, I can.
All right. Good night. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Buenas noches,
Thank
Dr. Pam.
you.
Buenas noches.